Attention Guilford County! Are you ready for positive change in our schools? Introducing Bill Goebel, a true champion for our students, parents, and teachers. With years of experience and unwavering dedication, Bill Goebel is the leader we need on the school board. As a current member representing District 3, Bill is already making a difference, shaping policies that benefit our community. Vote for Bill Goebel for school board, and let's build a brighter future for Guilford County together. Paid for by the committee to elect Bill Goebel for school board.
Coming up in this episode of Finding Common Ground.
I think we got the man himself, the Maverick.
I mean, that's what's refreshing about Trump and Vance is that they are not politicians.
There is no way I'm jumping out of a friggin' airplane.
And now Kamala out there, man, she is blasting.
What do you like about her policy?
About her policy? Her policy's good.
Well, which
her
parts of it?
Her policy's good. Tell JD, don't ice the champagne yet. It ain't happening quite yet.
What did he shoot now? He shot the doe.
There are two sides to every coin.
How do we deal with racial issues when they affect relationships?
Finding common ground on all those issues that we come against.
There's black and there's white.
And I think as Christians, we have to learn how to get together because we're not in heaven.
I've met more interesting people just by God just bringing them in.
Republicans and Democrats.
But a lot of times when it comes to race and it comes to culture and it comes to perception, even as Christians, we don't always understand. We look at it through our lenses.
There's Bill.
I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland called Parma.
Any black people in Parma?
There was not one.
Not one black person,
Not
Bill?
one.
Come on,
Not
Bill,
one.
you got to have one. A
Nope.
token black person, a token.
And there's Odell.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, public housing, single mom, divorced single mom of 4 kids. And I came up through segregation and all that kind of stuff.
If a black person drove through the town, the police would stop them and escort them out.
Bill and Odell are finding common ground.
A part of what we have to do is listen to each other, find the common ground, and question, not questioning you like you're on a witness stand, but questioning you for a better understanding. Father God, we just say thank you for your grace and mercy as we come to you, just happy as we know how, understanding that this great country we live in, this country that we call America, is continue to evolve, continue to change. The landscapes continue to go back and forth, to and fro. But God, with all that I have within me, I still say, and I still believe that America is the best country in the world at this time. And we ask you to continue to bless us and keep us. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen.
Amen. Heavenly Father, we just lift up our country as we go through an election process, a democratic process, an opportunity to for 200 years, transfer power from one person to another. We ask for blessings as we go through this process and that there be no violence, that people will honor this system that we've had for over 200 years. Amen.
Amen. Lord Heavenly Father, we've seen a lot of division and violence in recent weeks. Please help us find a way to unite and solve our differences without violence. This show's a great example of that, finding common ground. In your name and your son Jesus, we pray.
Amen. Amen. Hey, Odell.
Yes.
Guess who we have on today?
I think we got the man himself, the Maverick. I think
Maverick.
That's who it is. I know the voice. It's the voice, Bill. It's the voice.
I know Maverick's on. We're going to have a whole different level of conversation.
But Bill, it's interesting. When I heard you and the Maverick pray, you all mentioned the term violence. Maybe the good-looking black guy don't know what's going on because maybe I'm out of the loop. I didn't know anything about the violence. I hear the frat boys doing what the frat boys do, and that's kind of what they do. But it's interesting that it's a phrase, Bill, Maverick, you all may have heard or may not have heard. It says, be careful for what you wish for. You know, the frat boys in D.C. been wishing for Biden and, you know, Biden's old, Biden can't remember, Biden needs to get out, Biden needs to step down. Well, Biden stepped down and, you know, in the dirt road of South Carolina, we say, you know, be careful what you wish for. Or in other words, we say, don't let your mouth write a check your behind can't cash. But one of the things that the frat boys did, Maverick, back when the vice president was selected, they had fun with her name. And let me just tell the frat boys in D.C., her name is Kamala Devi, D-E-V-I Harris. She was born October 20th, 1964, so she's not as old as President Trump. Now he's the old man in the race. But the interesting thing about it is this. Well, he's the only man in the race. She's the first vice president and the highest ranking female officer in U.S. history, the first African American, the first Asian American vice president, U.S. Senator from California 2017 through 2021, the Attorney General of California from 2011 to 2017, and she went to a HBCU and pledged AKA, which is Divine Nine. And if that's not enough, her mom is from India. She's a Tamil Indian American who was a biologist. Her dad is from British Jamaica. He's a Jamaican African American of descent. Bill, I think you got something here, brother. I think that Trump got something here. How does he attack her? For what side? What angle?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know. They'll come up with something, I'm sure. It's the way this politics works today is the more negative you can go on somebody, the better, it seems like, as opposed to trying to talk about the issues and how you're going to solve all the problems. We got a lot of problems, just United States, but all worldwide. How is she
I think we've got to focus on policy and really start having hard discussions about policy. And also, how do you pay for some of these things that are being proposed? Medicaid for all sounds great, a single payer system. But, when you're talking about a $30 to $40 trillion price tag, that's pretty significant. And what will that do to healthcare? I'm a free market guy. I like being able to choose where I go, let's say, to go to a doctor. I don't want to have the government telling me how to do things. I haven't seen the government running things. When I need to mail something, I've said this before, I don't go to the post office. I go to FedEx or UPS if I want to make sure it gets there. So I'd prefer to have my own private option for healthcare. And when you go to other parts of the world, as y'all have traveled around, if something happens, you're going to the private hospital. You're not wanting to go to the public hospital. So I think that's one of the main things. I think the, Green New Deal, the price tag on that being, tens of trillions of dollars over the next 10 years, how that will impact jobs and how most of the world or major manufacturers in China and India are not abiding by that. So, how do we deal with that? And then, tax increases. If we start taxing people at a significant rate, we've seen it in California, right? Companies leaving there and they can leave the U.S. and they can go to other places. And wealthy folks, billionaires, can take their money and go somewhere else too if you start instituting a wealth tax. So I think that's where the discussion with Kamala should go. I think these personal attacks, it's one of the things I don't like about Donald Trump is the personal attacks. I know it's red meat theater and it riles people up, but it's just not necessary. I think you can stick to the policy and win.
Yeah, I agree with you. In business, if you were put in another program or another piece of at a factory, you had to justify your return on investment for it. It wasn't something that, we're just going to keep losing money on this factory, so we'll keep it going. You've got to figure out a way that you can keep the options. What we're getting into is the silly season, I call it. Politicians are going to promise everybody a chicken in every pot, car in every driveway, and everybody have a house and a mortgage. Free
40 acres and a mule? 40 acres and a mule?
You got it. All this stuff is coming out. And I think you're right. You start putting pen to pen paper on this and find out how much these things cost. $30 trillion. I mean, that's how many times greater than our gross national product.
Yeah, I think when she was on the debate stage, back when she was running for president before, when I was looking, they were doing the kind of the tax implications and the spending plans, and she had one of the highest spending plans of anyone on the stage of the Democrats. So I think that's probably where Republican criticism will go is, this is someone that, the one thing I'd say is, I like people that have signed the front of a paycheck that understand, how to spend money and how to save money and not spend money when it's their own money and not just monopoly money they're throwing around.
Yeah.
But, you print a lot of government money and you see exactly the inflation we've had. And if you place a lot of restrictions and you increase taxes, you can see job loss. And, I'd prefer a vibrant economy where everybody succeeds. And I think part of that is making sure that our products are competitive, that we can attract jobs and attract capital. I don't think government is the solution. What was that quote? Was it Ronald Reagan quote? the worst words you can hear is "we're the government and we're here to help" or something like
Ronald
that.
Reagan said that. Yeah, I'm from the government and
Yeah.
I'm here to help you.
Yeah. I'm very skeptical of that. Having seen some of that up close in the UNC system, once you put a tax in place or you get an income stream, it's really hard to cut that back. Bureaucracy kind of feeds on itself.
Well, I was thinking that, when's the last time we had an inspirational president that set a tone for us for the future? One of the things that I teach in my Boy Scout Polaris class and other places is the Merlin principle. And the Merlin principle is, Merlin could see the future. He could tell what you were going to eat tomorrow, Odell, and he would tell you.
Okay.
Well, what we use as an example, John F. Kennedy talking about his speech, we're going to the moon and back this decade. Now, at that time, we didn't even have the metals to withstand. We didn't even have a rocket that would go do that. But America put their shoulder to it. Now, that had to cost a ton of money to do. But a lot of technology came out. Look, we got Tang out of it.
Gentlemen, I love Maverick, and Bill is my partner in crime. But it's interesting to hear the conversation go to the Ronald Reagan Republicans versus the Donald Trump Republicans. I'm going to let Ronald Reagan, who I like, rest in peace. But the Capitol Hill, you all probably heard the Capitol Hill Club. That's the club in Washington, D.C., where the Republican, I know I went there a couple of times, have dinner and talk. I think the boys in the Capitol Hill Club is a little nervous right now, Maverick. Let me go back to the ugly side of politics. I know you all talked about policy and finances and responsibilities, and I'm like, that's not Trump. We're not talking. We're talking about Reagan. Reagan's not running. We're talking about Trump. One of the best lines that Trump did during the debate, and remember now, we got beat up during the debate. Biden got beat like he stole something. We talked about that, but Biden did something, and Trump said, and I still laugh, and I shouldn't laugh, but it's funny. He says, I don't know what he said. Then he said, he doesn't even know what he said. And I remember I don't know if you all remember that line in the debate, and it was kind of true. And I just started laughing as upset as I was. However, this is different, y'all. And I know I know both of you all know that Kamala's going to be different. Kamala ain't no joke. And I know Trump's like, hey, we're going to beat her. I'm just telling you. And no, now, Odell is a fan who always said no Biden, no Trump 2024. I've been saying that for 2.5 years. So, man, I hated to see him get out. No, that's a lie. I was saddened by seeing him get out, but I'm glad he got out. Kamala gonna be something, guys. I'm telling you, the Republican Party has their hands filled, and say what you want to, abortion is back on the table. A female's talking about abortion. She's not Biden. Yes, she's loyal to Biden, but this is going to be different. Let me just say it from my perspective. It's the kind of excitement that the Black community is showing, and I haven't seen this excitement in a while, and believe it or not, I'm part of the Black community, since President Obama ran. It is something. The HBCUs, where she graduated from Howard University, and she's part of the AKA, that's a sorority, big sorority, all over the country in different parts of the world. It's so much energy going on from Biden, who you watch go down the Air Force One stairs and hoping he don't fall or see a debate, and you were hoping that just don't forget, just don't get up there and forget what you were saying. Just get one good sentence together, because that's what we were. We were holding that. Okay, Biden, don't forget. Just don't forget to say hello. Don't forget your name. To now, Kamala out there, man, she is blasting. She is blasting. So I just want to let you know that we're kind of happy right now. The Democrats are kind of happy right now.
But you don't see her as maybe part of the swamp of the, no. A career politician that's been there for a while. That's what's refreshing about Trump and Vance is that they are not politicians. And I would draw comparisons to Ronald Reagan. You get someone that comes in and starts working on major economic policies, Reaganomics, right? Cutting taxes, deregulation, and, a strong leader that invests in defense spending and can end the Cold War. I think that, the whole line of, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. it's a strong leader out there. And I think Trump does, his economic policies are similar. His strong defense stance, people don't want to screw around with him. And, abortion, I think, is a really sticky topic to get into. But when you start talking about nuclear war and threatened nuclear war that's going on now, we'd all be aborted under a nuclear war. I mean, we'd all be gone. So, we need a leader out there that can challenge us. Now, we also haven't mentioned the third party candidates.
Who's that? We got the third party candidate?
Yeah, Kennedy and Dr. West. And I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. West. And while we may not agree on many policy issues, he is a real force. And I think what he brings to the table and why he's needed in this discussion is he can find ways to find common ground. He can find ways to, build that relationship, Brother Kotis, and, start mentioning cultural references and find ways to start a dialogue. And pretty soon you're finding that you want to find common ground with them. And I think that's missing from the current debate stage right now if you have presidential candidates. I'd love to see him here. I'm really disappointed that he's not on the North Carolina ballot. I feel like that's pure politics, and it could lead to, again, people not trusting the elections. If you're playing politics and you're not allowing someone on the ballot because you don't think it will help you, especially if you're someone that's a potential VP pick, it starts to reek of dirty politics.
Yeah, I agree. It does. I know what that feels like. And, it would be interesting.
Oh, man.
And this is really far-fetched.
Brother Goebel speaking. Yeah.
Marty, this would be, wouldn't it be cool?
Channel your Dr. West.
Yeah, if she picked Dr. West as her running mate.
No, that can't work. 2 black folks on the ticket. You know that to go. That's a sunken ship before it's even cast out there.
Knew I'd get him going.
Meritocracy.
Listen, let's say this. Tell Trump and Marty, I know you're on first name basis. What'd you call the vice president? His first name? What's his first name?
JD.
GD. Okay. Tell GD.
JD.
Tell JD, don't ice the champagne yet. And tell him to tell Trump, come back from the victory lap, because it ain't happening quite yet. But we'll see, though. But one thing I know is that the frat boy is going to say foolish things, because that's what they do. I think someone said, if the Republican lose, it's going to be civil war and da-da-da-da-da. Come on, man. I mean, come on, man.
No,
but maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I didn't get the memo. Have
you looked at JD's background, JD Vance's background?
Yeah, I looked at a little bit of it. Not impressed. An
impressive guy. I mean, Marine, grew up in the Appalachians, and wound up going to Yale. I mean, you're talking about someone that started with a mom that was addicted to opioids, raised by his grandmother. And I mean, he really cares about working class. And, he's an impressive guy. And he's someone that has disagreed with Trump in the past and was concerned about him as well. He made a lot of comments about him back then. And I made a lot of comments about Trump back then too, because, I didn't like the personality. I didn't like, some of the stuff he was doing on a personal level, but policy, economic policy and defense policy, I'm a fan of that group.
Well, I agree with you. I'm a fan of the policy. I'm not a fan of the drama. Dory and I, on the way out here, we listened to Liz Cheney's book called Oath and Honor. If you guys get a chance to listen to it or read it, it's pretty interesting from the standpoint of, if what she says is partially true, there was a lot going on around January 6th. They're saying, there were 61 lawsuits filed by Trump. He lost 60 of them, with half of the judges were appointed by him. So, I think that having Trump in office, we had some people around him that I think helped with his policy and executed it. If he doesn't put some good people around him, he's never going to get anything done. And so he's got to put some good staff. You know that, Marty. You got to have good people around you.
Yeah.
And Odell, you know that as well. So he's got to put a good staff. I guess my thing,
and as we were reminded a week ago, one shot away from a change to VP, and that's why the VP is very important. But again, I mean, talk about an amazing story. I think JD Vance has a great story, and Hillbilly Elegy, a extremely well-read book, and the movie as well. I have not read the book. I'm going back to read that.
Going to have to read that.
A great story.
Yeah, we'd have to listen to that one.
Well, the thing about it is Trump could put all the good people around him when he wants to, but he's not good people. So, and not his character. I mean, can you trust Trump? I mean, to tell you the truth. You said, well, yeah, of course, Odell. He's a Boy Scout. He's going to tell the truth. I'm like, come on, y'all. Can you trust Trump to not commit a crime? I mean, come on, what? It ain't funny, but what about Trump don't we understand right now? I mean, we're wrapping him up like, hey, this is Ronald Reagan. He's not Ronald Reagan. He doesn't have Nancy. Come on, y'all.
No,
Come on now.
I think a lot of these folks, and probably going back to, Kennedy with Marilyn Monroe or Clinton with Monica Lewinsky, I think they get this God complex and think they can do whatever they want. And they're, one of the most powerful people in the world, or the most powerful person in the world. And I think it gets to a lot of their heads, and I think it causes them to do things that aren't great to do. So, I haven't seen a presidential candidate out here that I've gotten really excited about on a personal level. So it's more about policy for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I wasn't excited about Biden. I wasn't excited about Trump. I'm excited about Kamala. I think, to your point, JD has great credentials. If you want me to, I could read Kamala's credentials again.
Well, what about her policy? What do you like about her policy?
About her policy? Her policy's good.
Well, which
Her
parts of it?
policy's good. What parts of it is the whole part of trying to be equitable, right? And the whole thing what she did with California, and the whole thing, what I like about it is I don't want to say social justice is the fact that if you commit a crime, then you should pay. Because I think that Trump's whole issue, and I'm not going to say this is policy, but I've seen more people kiss Trump's behind and made judgments in the justice system that makes one think that, wait a minute now, this judge does this. This Supreme Court justice is doing that. And it's like losing faith in the election system. We're losing faith in democracy based on some of the behaviors, in my humble opinion, just my humble opinion.
Well, there are a lot of people.
It'd be nice to be able to just separate the man from the policy.
Yes.
And really have a debate on that. I do like Kennedy had the idea of, or was it? No, it was Ross Perot back in the day. One of the first people I voted for as an independent back in 92 that had the idea of this kind of electronic surveying of folks to gather more feedback on policy points. It's a shame we don't have that now. You would think, we rely on pollsters out there and everyone to tell us what everyone thinks, but it'd be nice to have a way to kind of cast a vote on different policy.
That would be cool.
When you saw Cornel West, what about him most impressed you, Maverick?
Well, let's back up for a minute.
So,
where were you that met him? How circumstance, how that came about?
Yeah. So Dr. West was coming to Carolina. He'd been before. He had a debate with Robbie George, and the two of them are friends and have had discussions like the two of y'all do, part of the program for public discourse. And he came in for a program that was sponsored by the Center for Middle East Studies and School for Civic Life and Leadership, I believe. And it was hosted. He was coming down to speak at Carolina. I actually was attending an event earlier in the day that I was hosting. I had to leave to get down there so I could catch up with him and listen to it. But I had a chance to sit next to him at dinner, and what a fascinating man. I think he builds a rapport with those that he's speaking to, and you instantly like him. He's a cool guy, right? So, I mean, you got that right off the bat. And,
right.
He pulls in music references, obscure music references, philosophy, history, and he paints these pictures for you and tells a story that makes you understand his perspective and doesn't make you put a wall up, but makes you want to listen to him and consider his point of view. And I think that is sorely needed. If we're going to have any change or common ground, we've got to have folks that have that skill set as part of the discussion.
There's a part, you made me think of something, Marty. Dory and I are watching the John Adams HBO series that was based on David McCullough's book, John Adams. One of the things that happened when he first went to his first Continental Congress, Ben Franklin took him off to the side and said, explain to him there's such thing as diplomacy in politics. And then basically he was saying how to get your way is not to come at someone or be blunt about what you're saying. Use metaphors, use the language that the person that you're talking to understands, and build rapport to get them. And Franklin coached Adams through a lot of it. He let Adams be the mouthpiece, but he kind of showed him the way. He was behind the scenes. I wouldn't call him a puppet master, but he was smart enough to know that being out front wasn't the way to go. And in fact, there was a part there that Adams went up to Jefferson, and he asked Jefferson why he didn't step up more in the Virginia delegation and speak his mind, because they were the same mind as John Adams. And Jefferson said, "Sir, the way I speak is with my pen, not with my mouth." And
Hey, Odell, what do you think about Dr. West?
Dr. West is one of my heroes. Dr. West is intelligent, brilliant man. I don't agree with him running for president of the United States, but he's always been one since I was in college all the way through. I heard him speak once at Abyssinian Church in Harlem, New York. I mean, he would have you on the edge of your seat. He is just brilliant, just very brilliant. So I think he got a little bent when President Obama was president. Some of the things he didn't think Obama was black enough. So, that kind of stuff. But you know how that goes. So that's my opinion of Dr. West. But I think he's a brilliant man. And much like you, I love to hear him talk. And just the way he brings things and paint that picture is just awesome.
Yeah, and his use of music. And he's actually had some albums as well where he's used that as a medium too. And just he's so smart. I mean, it's really interesting to listen to him because it's like listening to jazz, right? And he mentions Coltrane a lot, but he's pulling all these little bits and pieces, and you have to focus to follow everything. And you feel like you need to Google half the things that he mentions because they're interesting things that you want to learn more about.
Yeah.
So I do think he's got a way about him that really breaks through. Again, policy wise, we probably couldn't be further apart, but he's got a voice that I think will resonate with a lot of folks on both sides of the aisle. And especially if they're frustrated with the two-party system, I think he provides an interesting option.
Well, him explaining things through jazz is like listening to Bill Goebel teach me about bourbon and how bourbon, Bills know all that kind of stuff. Bill, before you jump on Trump, another one of the Democrats went down in flame. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez going to resign after corruption charges, and everybody know that story. So it's good that when people get caught, they resign. Some people get caught and they resign. Mr. Goebel, tell us about former President Trump and the shooting and everything, sir.
Well, that was, I was watching it on television when it happened. I thought maybe a bee stung him or something, the way he grabbed his ear. But then when obviously a second later, you saw what was happening. When he came up and I saw the blood, I figured, did one of the Secret Service guys hit him or something or nick him or something? And then it wasn't until later on that I realized it was a real assassination attempt, came within millimeters of killing him. And it's interesting. I actually was, after Kennedy got shot and killed, back then it was black and white TV and you only got news once in a while. Well, after Kennedy got shot, that was on that was on all the time. And the morning I was watching it after church, and I was watching, and they're bringing Lee Harvey Oswald out from his cell, and they're going to put him in a security truck, Wells Fargo security truck. And I saw him get shot, and I was like, this reminds me of Oswald getting shot, that it was surreal that it actually happened. Marty, what was your response?
Yeah, no, when I saw him turn and he reached for his ear and then started to duck, I thought somebody shooting at him. But I was like, how could that happen?
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was closer, like someone had, brought something in and thrown it at him or something like that, maybe. And then, we're 130 yards that this kid was out. That's not far for a modern rifle at all.
Yeah.
And it's well within distance. And it makes you worried because you think, gosh, you take someone that's a military trained folk and they're going to go out a lot further than that. And not like we don't have enemies all over the world. Did y'all hear about that story about the Chechens in North Carolina?
No.
And how they went after a special ops guy, went to his house
No.
That was in North Carolina. But I mean, we've got people that have come, into the country, and these are folks that are a hell of a lot more accurate. I mean, now this kid had gone out apparently and scoped out the area first, had flown a drone over, I understand, and had a plan. This was not just, last minute thing that he threw together, but for maybe wind or, depends on the surface that he was on that roof. If he didn't have a bipod, what sort of optics he had, I don't know. I don't think we have those details yet. And then but to think that the Secret Service didn't factor that in, didn't provide any sort of, ballistic barriers or, kind of a patrol that's going around watching these different areas. It just feels like a complete breakdown. And it's lucky that it's awful that we had one person die and two people critically injured, but it's amazing that it wasn't any worse than that. I think he fired off 8 shots. And so, it just shows that, this ties back into something I've been talking about at Carolina. I think we've got to have better preparation. We've got to have better cameras. We've got to have license tag readers. We've got to have real-time monitoring centers. We've got to have rapid response teams. We got to go through drills. These are all sorts of things that now are table stakes, because the next person that comes out, everybody's got to be worried about this now. Because if Trump can get shot with Secret Service detail assigned to him, what about everybody else that doesn't have that sort of protection? I think we've had a false sense of security, and I think people will be bumping up their security going forward.
Yeah.
Marty, how would you pay for all that at Carolina?
Well, we talked about this before. I believe in cutting administrative bloat, and I'd start with some of the ones that are $300,000 and $400,000 salaries. See whether or not they're really needed, and redeploy. But there's plenty of money at Carolina and in the system. There's plenty of bureaucracy that can be cut. I think people's safety on campus has got to be one of our main priorities. When you send your kid to school at Carolina, I think every parent out there wants to know their kid is safe. And so that's job number one. And then if we have to cut other stuff to pay for that, we have to cut other stuff to pay for that. But there's plenty of stuff to cut. We're not being as efficient as we can. And we've got a huge endowment as well. So there's plenty of dollars to do it.
How big is
and it needs to be done soon, because I think in the fall, we could be looking at more heated rhetoric and more potential violence between groups. And again, this was a 20-year-old, right? We got plenty of 20-year-olds on our campus.
Yeah. How big is the endowment at Chapel Hill?
$5 billion.
$5 billion. Holy moly. Wow.
Did he say billion with a B?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, hey, you need some money to buy ball players. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not DEI. What it is, the NIL. My fault. NIL. It's legal now. Does Mac Brown have his straw in that $5 billion, still sucking it up? Mac said it was so good he left and came back.
Yeah, it's I don't think we're dealing in the money sports with amateur sports anymore. Not when you're talking about, contracts, NFL contracts or NBA contracts out there in the tens of millions of dollars. It's really hard to say that this is amateur sports now. So there needs to be some reforms on that.
I agree. Yep. Goebel, the young lady, now you were talking about President Trump. The young lady, Secret Service director, got fired or stepped down, whatever you want to say it. But the interesting thing, some of the frat boys said this is the DEI horror story. They use this to attack efforts for diversity at Secret Service. This reminds me of when I was coming to college, I got a job in management, and they said, Odell, did you get your job because of affirmative action? I'm like, not that I'm aware of. So what do you think about the young lady being forced to step down?
Well, you were part of affirmative action. Here's how I see it. They offered you a job.
Help me.
They offered you a job and you said affirmative. I'll take it.
But okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you,
I think
sir.
some of the criticism that they were leveling, it's horrible for the Secret Service detail out there. I mean, Trump's credit, he's praised the Secret Service detail that was with him. But, I think they're focused in on like one of the officers, one of the agents not being able to, or not holstering their weapon back based on placement or the height of them kind of covering a guy that's 6'2" or 6'3", depending upon which day of the week it is, I think.
Yeah.
And you've got people that were shorter kind of blocking him, which works for maybe his body, but not for his head.
Yeah. His head.
Or the ability to lift him up. So you got to have, somebody strong enough to be able to lift him or carry him if he's been shot to carry him off. So I think that was more of what I heard about whether or not you had the right people physically. And that goes back, that's not a new topic. There's been a discussion about that with the military for years, whether or not someone is strong enough to do that. Now, I did attend another event that was Tulsi Gabbard, and man, she is strong and tough. And I think she could carry me out or Trump out, in a heartbeat over her shoulder. She's a tough person. So I don't think you make that generalization, but you may just say you need someone a little bit taller, a little bit stronger, perhaps. But I don't know. Maybe the woman that was having trouble with her putting her gun back in can bench a lot and probably could carry him. I don't know. That's hard to evaluate that.
Well, I don't think that was justified. However, a good-looking black guy who's very strong, when the adrenaline kicks in sometime, and I think Goebel was a witness, and you see a buck. Now, a buck's not the same thing as somebody, and I'm not making light of the president being shot because I'm the first to say I'm totally against that. I saw a buck, and I shot, and Goebel, explain to the people what happened to me, Goebel. I still don't know. Just explain to the people with that buck and everything. By the holster, putting your holster back, I couldn't even find my gun. And it was in my hands.
Yeah, you didn't even have a bullet in your gun. You forgot to put your bullet in.
Did you go deer hunting, Odell?
Yeah.
I went deer hunting. It was so embarrassing that Bill just babysat me, put the training wheels on. And I was so embarrassed, Marty. I missed the buck so many times. I said, I'm not shooting again. And Bill said, yes, you are. So he calmed me down, and I...
Did he take you to a range first, at least, let you shoot a little bit before?
Oh, listen, I'm an excellent marksman. It was not me. I'm good looking and I'm a good shooter. The point is, when the adrenaline hits, that buck, we call it buck fever. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. It's just adrenaline is a big deal. So the young lady couldn't put her holster back in with everything going on with the president. I don't know the reason, but one thing I do know, that she probably could do a better job than I could do.
So you're saying the buck does not stop with Odell? Or does not get stopped?
Does not stop
by
with
Odell?
No. It's a running joke for years, Marty, about me, Odell's buck on the mountains, for years. So, I'm the butt of the joke with the buck. But what I will say is that buck that day, once I got myself together, that one didn't go home. It went home with us that day.
Yeah, he it was interesting. He had there was a buck and a doe that came out early on, and they ran across the field, and I figured, well, that was our opportunity. We're in the top of a mountain at John Wilson's place field. These two deer come through there, and about 5:30, it was just getting dark, dusky. Up comes the doe, and I go, uh-oh, the buck's got to be coming up behind it. And sure enough, the buck come out in the middle of the field, and I said, Odell, take it, man. It's a nice buck. And he takes his gun, and his barrel looked like it was on a roller coaster. It was going up and down, up and down. I said, put it on the rail. Stick it on the rail. Don't try and he pulled the trigger, and it went click. And I go, what the heck? And he says, something's wrong with my gun. So I hand him my gun, and I tell him, put it on the rail. So I take the barrel and put it down on the rail. And
there you go.
He shoots this thing. I almost about 100 yards, 120 yards, and it jumps up. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I thought he missed it again, and he says, I got it. All right. And next thing I know,
I think y'all are gonna have to come out to my range, and we're gonna see how this plays out.
It's a deal.
We'll put some targets up.
I'd love to do that. Well, then right after he shot the buck, he turns, and I'm just standing there. I figure we're going to climb down the ladder, and because it's a 2-man deer stand, we're going to climb down the ladder and go get this buck. And I'm starting to move a little bit, and all of a sudden, bang, it goes off again. I go, what did he shoot now? He shot the doe too. He shot them both.
Yeah.
He got that one shot.
Listen, one thing I did.
At least he didn't get you, Bill.
Yeah,
no, I know.
I know I got the buck. And then once you get confidence, then you went and got the doe. Speaking of confidence, is Trump too old to be president?
Oh, yeah.
I don't hear nobody saying, I think Biden was too old. We knew that. But is Trump too old? Because I think this young lady's born in 1964. So that would make her about what, 59, something like that. And I think Trump's what, 79 or something?
I think we've seen people that have been able to hold it together even later in life. And,
Yes.
I wouldn't want to judge somebody by their age. I wouldn't want somebody to judge me by my age, either too young or too old. I think it's all about cognitive, but I do think maybe a cognitive test might be a good idea for the White House doctor to go over. What do y'all think about this whole COVID thing and Biden dropping out after COVID? It feels a little convenient, doesn't it?
It does. In the last show, me and Bill was talking. I said, Bill, that's a great exit ramp. It's like, listen, that's a good strategy. Hey, I got COVID, man. Listen.
It's like it's Monday
so
morning.
Funny. It was
I got
funny.
COVID. I can't come in.
Marty, it was so funny when Trump beat him the last time. In the hood I grew up in, when somebody beat you, they'd take their foot and kick you in your behind and make you go. Trump beat him so bad. Trump kicked him in his behind. I mean, Trump kicked him so hard, my boy got COVID.
Kicked him
Or
to
his
COVID.
tennis shoes over the electrical wire.
I'll tell you what, man, Trump beat Biden so bad in that debate. I tell you what, it was just, I believe in just giving it what it is. But Bill, what's your thought? Because I thought Biden, he was never the same. I mean, Trump just beat him, man. It's like, please quit beating him, Trump. Trump beat him in that famous line. He said, hey, I don't know what he said. He don't even know what he said.
Yeah, it was, I knew we were in trouble as soon as Biden walked out. I think I have a Biden cough.
Well, you said Bill, you know you were a Republican, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Okay, now, Marty, are you still a Republican or are you still an independent? What are you now these days?
Yeah, I'm a Republican, but I'm and I have been my whole life. But I did vote for Perot back in '92. So
You didn't vote for the black guy, Obama?
Obama's policies don't quite match up with my thoughts on policies. He is a very personable man, and I think that he definitely was plenty sharp.
Got it.
And that's the contrast with Biden. Biden didn't come across as sharp.
But Biden,
I would have loved to have seen Cornel West up on the stage and Kennedy as well. I think
he would have cleaned them
the more
up.
the merrier on a debate stage. Would have been really interesting to hear them. And I think Dr. West probably would have been, the favorite after a debate. People listening to him speak.
I agree. What the Democrats did is what the Republicans did in 2000. And what's the second time Trump won? He got beat twice and won once, correct? Remember the year he won? No, was it last time he got beat? The Republicans decided nobody else could run. They wouldn't allow nobody else to run against him in the primaries, correct? But just imagine Kennedy in a debate with Biden.
Well,
Kennedy and Biden up there on national TV talking about what?
It's a Saturday Night Live sketch. You've got Trump.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. Cornel West would eat them up.
You got Biden, who's senile. You got Kennedy, who has a worm in his brain. You have Cornell, who can actually put a sentence together and make sense. He would sweep them up. It'd be entertaining to watch, but it'd be amazing. Marty, that's a great idea. That would be fun to watch that.
Well, I think people shouldn't be afraid of a debate if they are comfortable with, themselves. And so,
do you think Trump is going to debate Kamala?
I would hope so.
Me too.
That's nice.
I don't think anybody should shy away from a debate. It shows a weakness if you're not willing to.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
I agree.
Who's going to be the Democratic VP pick, Bill?
Oh, that's going to be critical for her to get the right person for that. And they're now talking about a guy from Arizona and a guy from Pennsylvania, and Cooper's name comes up. But Cooper is, he may be good. His delivery is pretty bland, and she needs a dynamic. I think the more dynamic, like JD he has a personality. I mean, we get up there and start speaking, you can kind of relate to him. So she needs somebody that people can be attracted to and go, I can see this.
Yeah, they're talking about Cooper because they're saying that the state is doing so well, but not because of any of his policies.
No,
if it was up to him on regulation and taxes, all these jobs wouldn't be here. So, he's like turning in the homework of the legislature and claiming that it's his own, applying for the job. Now, the only thing he may be doing is rigging the state board of elections against Dr. West to get his name in the hat.
Okay. Now, let me tell you what Cooper's doing from inside position. They are saving Cooper, positioning him to run against Tillis. So Cooper will not be one of the vice presidents. They're running him against Tillis for Senate. So just so you know how that's working out. And the rigging of access to votes in the state of North Carolina. Yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope she gets somebody who's good. I think JD, to Marty's point, didn't JD call her a cat woman? Something like, I don't, what is a cat woman? I don't even know what a cat woman is. What is that?
I heard something about that, but I don't know if that was him or not. I've heard the cackling Kamala comment, but I haven't heard the cat. I've heard something about the cat thing, but I haven't heard it in its full context.
Yeah. It's going to be very hard to talk down to or attack a woman verbally, especially a Black female on the campaign stage. So it's going to be interesting to see what this Trump campaign comes up with, but I'm sure they're going to come up with something, but it's going to be very interesting. And speaking of coming up with something, guess who's taking the Olympic flame right to the Paris Stadium? Snoop Dogg. He's going to be doing the Crip Walk going in there. What do you think about that? Snoop Dogg in Paris? I mean, Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. Come on, y'all.
What's he doing? What's Snoop Dogg doing? What? You gotta be kidding me.
Snoop Dogg's got a broad audience.
Yeah, he does. He does. But I thought, didn't they say LeBron James is going to lead the U.S. delegation?
LeBron will have the flag. Snoop Dogg, you know how in the end, that last mile, they take the torch bill.
Oh, yeah.
Right into the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg is going to be doing the Crip Walk, bringing the torch in to the final person who will take it in and take it up and light the flame. Why you shake your head, Gobo? You don't like Snoop Dogg?
Oh, I love Snoop Dogg. I love Snoop Dogg. I think he's just, I just wonder how much marijuana he's going to have when he does it.
Well,
I think we're going to see more of these non-traditional candidates, pop culture figures run for office. I mean, you could see, so imagine like LeBron for president, or imagine a Snoop for president.
Nope.
Or Mark Cuban, or, you know, different folk, or Taylor Swift, get all our Swifties to vote for.
Swift.
Nope.
There you go.
No.
I'm telling you, I think we're going to see more of this. I mean, this is what happens. We're delving into the world of like South American elections with some of the politics in the U.S. right now. So, I mean, I think we're going to see more of these popular pop culture people run.
Wasn't
exactly?
I mean, Kanye already.
Zelensky was a comedian. He was a comedian before he became prime minister or president of Ukraine.
Wasn't Trump a comedian too? What was he doing at? You're fired or you're hired? What was he doing?
An actor. Yeah. Well, we're running the show. Yeah. For that.
Yeah. He was
TV series.
Reality series.
And I think he had some things he did with WWE back in the day.
Yeah.
No, I mean, who would have thought you would see that at a Republican?
Hulk Hogan.
I mean, all of that occurring at a Republican National Convention. It just shows how the party has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not Reagan's party anymore. That's
that's what I was trying to say earlier. It's not this is not Reagan's party. Hulk came in there and he started yelling and screaming and pulling his shirt apart. He pulled his shirt off, but he didn't pull his hat off. You know, Hulk's bald like me, so he can pull his shirt all he wants to. That hat didn't come off, boy. That hat was glued down.
You know, I watched
the Hulk stuff.
Watched the Johnny Carson.
But in these days of TikTok and, you know, Instagram stories that are popping out there, I think that it's these sorts of things. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it, right? It's iconic things like that that are silly, that capture people's attention. And I think we're going to see more of that. Fortunately or unfortunately, it is entertaining to watch, but it's a big shift.
Well,
think about it. It was
Trump won.
It was entertaining.
Not Trump. Clinton, when he went on the show Arsenio Hall and played that saxophone with his sunglasses on, he sealed the deal with that generation of voters. That was huge for him to do that.
You know, Bill, you're right, because that's when we lied to Bill Clinton. We, being black folks, said Bill is the first black president. We were so desperate, even somebody, a white person who act black, we like, okay, that's our guy. You know, he went on to City Hall and act black, so he was our black president. Then when Obama came along, who's biracial, Clinton thought he was still a black president. He started talking junk about Obama, and they had to pull him to the side and say, wait a minute, you can't be talking about black people like that. And Clinton said, I'm black. No. Now you got Kamala coming in there. So it's just going to be interesting. This whole thing, and it's not about race, but America has its issues with race. So this is going to be very, very interesting. Interesting.
We've gone from having podcasts where we talk about Biden falling off the stage to now Kamala and Trump going at it. least it's going to be entertaining. You know, when Biden finished that debate, they pulled back, and you could see in the dark. They turned the lights down, but immediately his wife ran up to the stage and grabbed Biden because he didn't know where he was and helped him walk down the stage. And you could see
maybe he fell out of a coconut tree.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
But more important, Trump beat him so bad. You know, sometimes fighters can get dizzy. Trump beat him. I mean, listen, I'm not for abuse, but Trump beat Biden like he stole something. It was so embarrassing, guys. It was so bad that it ended his career. I mean, that debate, no matter what you want to say, that debate ended Biden's long career. But let's say something. Black folk have love in their heart for Biden. Let me tell you why. Biden was the person who stood up there with Barack Obama and took some arrows for Barack. Now, Biden's going to be upset with Nancy Pelosi and other people because they said, yo, bro, you got to go. And Biden's like, wait a minute, I'm usually the one. And that's just life, Maverick, that for all of us, we get to a certain point where they're like, okay, Odell, you got to go. You're not the good looking black guy anymore. Okay, so I'm still thinking I am, and that's the problem, because when I take the glasses off, I'm thinking I'm the good-looking black guy, but everybody else said, nah, you're just an old dude, man, with gray hair coming out of your nose and coming out of your ears. You need to go. We need somebody else, and that's so hard in leadership when people say they want someone else. You know, I think it's, what's the gentleman's name? William Shakespeare, in one of his plays, he talks about the head that wears the crown. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And they talk about leadership and the challenges of leadership. And I think it was King Henry IV who was struggling with his duties as king, and he had to make some tough decisions. And Biden had to make some tough decisions because heavy is the head that wears the crown. And it talked about the whole thing about, you know, the crown is uncomfortable and it's just not good at all. And it hurts even when you take it off to sleep. It affects your sleep even when you're not wearing it. So you toss and turn at night, all those things. I'm sure President Biden did not get good sleep. And Bill, when the former Vice President Pence complimented Biden on making that good decision, you know what happened to him? He got all beat up.
Yeah.
He got beat up for even complimenting the man to say you made the right decision for America. And some, not all on the Republican Party, Maverick said, no, don't you even compliment him. Don't you say a good thing about him. I'm like, dog, they're treating him like he's black, man.
No, former Vice President Pence did what he should do in that case.
Yeah,
and I certainly support his actions that day.
Me too. I think, the Constitution was set up for a reason. There's a lot of interpretations of different things in the Constitution, but that role was pretty clear. And
you can't play it kind of loose on things like that. You got to follow the book.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And he followed the book, you know.
Yeah. And he did his homework.
That's why, yeah, absolutely.
So, Maverick, what's the good things you're doing? I know you're building up, buying up, taking over the city. Tell the good people what's going on and how we can help.
Yeah, so just, working on a new project on North Battleground. We've cleared the trees off of. I'm working on that with Will Stevens is my partner in that. We're 50-50 partners. It's a great site. So we're going to have a nice retail and likely mixed use project through there. I wait for the housing market to come back around a little bit, but that's going on. Tracks project, we're still going through kind of permitting and getting that project sorted out, but that's been, it's a big project, 11 acres downtown. So that's a big
downtown
assemblage.
Greensboro?
Yeah, downtown Greensboro.
Where is it located? I'm sorry, 11 acres
It
downtown?
is, do you know where Dram and Draft is?
Yeah.
The old Brooks Lumber area.
Yeah.
So there, and then a couple blocks north of that as well. So assemble that area, and I want to, transform it and make it a place where, the college kids and young folks want to go out and have some options for restaurants, event space, maybe some music. Got a skateboard park that we've got planned as part of it, things like that. So I want to make it a place where, again, young folks would want to spend more time.
So, Bill, Dream and Drafts, that's the place right there where the distribution center used to be, Bill?
No,
it's right there coming across that bridge.
Corner of Gate City and Eugene.
Yeah, when you come
on
the right
it's
side.
It's an old warehouse right there, right?
It was a gas station on the corner back in the
day. But behind that on the other side of the tracks is a warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's both those properties, but they're in the former gas station. And
Got it.
speaking of bourbon,
I
they
know what you
have,
talk about. I know exactly where you are now. Yeah, that's a cool spot.
they've got the best whiskey and selection in the city.
Do they
No,
really?
Bill
And
Goble
really
has
the
the
best
best. Bill
mixology.
has the best selection. Bill has the best selection.
The
We need to go down there together and try it, have a drink.
yeah, I'd like to do that. When we get back from this trip, I'll see we arrange it. The three of us meet there. Do they serve food too, or how's it? I haven't been in there.
Just drinks, but you can order in food too.
Yeah, that'd be good. Well, let's do that. That's great.
So,
You know,
Bill, what trip are you on? What do you talk about the trip, Goble? What's going on?
Well, Dory and I took the RV, and we've now put about 1,400 miles on it. We're almost to the point. I got to think another 350. We'll be in Golden, Colorado, and we'll spend 8 days there. Dory's birthday's coming up, and she's decided she's going to jump out of a plane for her birthday, and I'm going to sit on the ground.
Wait a minute.
Nice.
Wait a minute, Goble. Wait a minute. Are you jumping with her? What's going on?
No, I am going to be sitting on the ground with a cigar and a bourbon watching her come down.
Okay.
And there is no way I'm jumping out of a friggin' airplane.
Okay. All right. How high
I
would
did
she
that
be?
back when I was younger.
Did you do that?
Probably jump at 20,000 feet for a tandem jump.
20,000 feet. Oh,
12, or can't remember if it's 12 or 20, but one of the two is the tandem jump
that
height.
can't be 20.
And then you
back.
fall, I think 12,000, then you fall to, I think 4,000 when it deploys.
And you deploy your shoes.
It's been a while. I did it back in the 90s and thankfully survived, but I would not do it again. I made a joke. I said, I'm about to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. And they said, well, you haven't seen the plane. I got in the plane and it was stripped out, they strip out all the weight out of it. I was ready to jump out of that plane by the time we got to jump height. I felt safer in the air than I did in that plane.
Where did you do your jump?
I was in Las Vegas and it was so awful. You go out, it's like an hour drive out to it. And then they sit you down and they have this video playing. The video basically says, you can die, you can die, you can die, you can die, you can die. You may die. If you die, it's not our fault. And then they present you a piece of paper and say, but if you don't want to sign this waiver for an extra $1,000, you don't have to sign it. And who's going to do that, right? Who's going to sign something like that on there? And then I go out to jump and I'm there with my mortgage banker at the time. He agreed to go with me. And his guy, we flipped a coin. He's going first. His guy comes out. The guy's like, yeah, I've done thousands of jumps. Don't worry if you have any problems, I'll do this. And the guy looked, clean cut military. My guy comes out, looks like he's from Point Break. And he's like, man, I've been doing this all summer. And I've got, dozens of jumps under me. I'm like, wait a second, dozens? What about the other guy with thousands of jumps? I want him. I want the ex-military guy, not new dude here. Then I had to get in the Vegas mindset. I was like, now the other guy that's jumped thousands of times, he's due to have something bad to happen to him. My guy that's only done it dozens, I'm a little safer with him. So Dory, I hope you get a good person that inspires confidence. Because you're very close to them when you do it. They strap you in and you're basically on their belly. So you need to check him out, Bill, and make sure he's not competition or something, getting too cozy with Dory up there.
Yeah, good point. I didn't think about that. I'm going to find the Bubba guy. If he shows up in overalls, that's my guy. Bib overalls. That's Dory's guy.
There you go. Bill, how's the election going on?
Good.
What's new in those who want to support you?
It's going good. I got stopped in the grocery store the other day. Two women asked if I was Bill Goble running for school board, and I said I am. And they said, well, we want yard signs and we want to help you. So I took their names and emails and we'll do that. And that's been happening, not on a regular basis, but enough that makes me feel good. Marty's offered to step up, which I appreciate. Thank you, Marty.
Yeah.
I've got a billboard on Market Street.
Battleground.
Yeah. And I'm getting one on Battleground and with Marty's. So it's coming together. I'm getting ready to buy 1,500 yard signs. And when I get back from the trip, that's when I'm going to start knocking on doors and say, I'm running. Can I put a yard sign up in October? Because you can't put them up to October 4th, yard signs. It's interesting, Marty. They don't have a restriction on TV ads, radio ads, or billboards. Yard signs, there's a restriction, which I kind of get because otherwise people would put, I've seen Kennedy signs out now. And I'm like, what?
I've seen them out too.
So
Bill, how do you deal with low information voters? Because I think a lot of people go to the polls
Absolutely.
and they're sitting there and they're overwhelmed by the ballot. Maybe they don't know who folks are, especially, maybe if they don't have kids and they're looking to make a choice. What's your message to them? What's your elevator pitch for how you would be the right choice for them?
The message I have for them is that, and they noticed instinctively, whether they have kids in the school or had kids in the school, that our facilities are falling apart because we've underfunded the schools. We've got to properly fund the schools. We're ranked 47th in the nation. And we don't need to change that overnight, but we need to start moving up the ladder. 15 years ago, we were 26th in the nation. Now we're 47th. So my thing is, and we can't keep going back to taxation to fund schools. That's not a model that's sustainable. We have to come up with alternative sources. And for me, the alternative source, there's 3 funding sources, federal, state, and local. Our local is right in line. But when I started looking at local county compared to other counties, there are 2 counties that jumped out, Chapel Hill and New Hanover County. We're giving like $3,600 a student. They're giving $8,000, $78,000. I said, how the heck are they doing that? They tax them? So I met the superintendent for New Hanover, and he said, no, we have an endowment, a $1.6 billion endowment. We just pull money off.
Wow.
And so we have a $20 million endowment. So my thing is, this community is a very philanthropic community. We can build a bigger endowment over years. It takes years. You can't do it overnight. But you can go and say, hey, could you give me $10,000 a year for 5 years for the schools? And Kathy Manning is going to have some time on her hands. She was a huge fundraiser for the Tanger Center. So I know Kathy and Randall. I'm going to say, oh God, I'm not asking you to run it, but would you put your shoulder, because she knows where all the dead bodies are. She can help us. So we're going to.
That's a great idea, Bill. Find private money to support the schools.
Yeah. And, big companies will do it because they need employees. And what a better way to do that? Now, this will be restricted money. This is not money they can one day a school board goes, oh, look at this pot of money. No. This is restricted money. It can only be used. And that's what we're going to try and do is restrict it. Well, you can do that. We do it with scouts all the time. So that's what I want to do. That's what
is anybody talking about a quick speech? Has anybody seen those advertising commercials against Mark Robinson about the keep your skirt up thing and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah. I got a bunch of stuff in the mail, direct mail.
I mean, they are burning that stuff up, man. So just think about it. The state of North Carolina, we have the Maverick in here at University of North Carolina. Now, Maverick, you're in charge, not in charge, I'm sorry. You're part of the whole system, all the schools, correct?
I used to be. So I was on that from 2013 to 2021, the UNC System Board of Governors. And now I'm on the UNC Chapel Hill Board of Trustees. So just focused on one school instead of 17.
Wow.
But I still love them all.
Yeah.
I support all the schools.
We have a great system in North Carolina. We really do. I mean, I know we got problems, but my goodness, the community college.
And we're lucky to have 2 great ones in Greensboro.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. North Carolina A&T and UNCG. Yeah. And then, nearby we've got School of the Arts in Winston, as well as Winston-Salem State. So 4 of the 17 schools are right here in the Triad.
Wow.
Realize now that. We need to bring the Ohio State University here and make that the 18th school.
We got to build a Horseshoe. Their state.
Well, isn't that where J.D. Vance went?
He went to Ohio State undergrad. Yeah, he went to Ohio State. He's a Buckeye. So he's got the Ohio vote locked up.
So you can see him at an event, Odell, and shut him up about.
Well, I probably won't be going to those events. Usually I get an invitation to go to Trump events. I just don't want to be the black guy holding the sign Blacks for Trump, because I think if I'm the only black person to show up, they're going to sit me right behind Trump and stick a sign in my hand, Blacks for Trump. And I'm like, nah.
You can wear a bulletproof vest if you go?
Nah. Huh?
You can wear a bulletproof vest?
Go, ouch, Marty, ouch, man.
Don't stand
next
to him.
No, listen. I'm not a Trump fan, but I don't want anything to happen to any candidate.
I agree.
Because I don't think violence is accepted. And so that's my thing. But at the end of the day, we have fun on the show, and that's not going to stop us from having fun. But at the end of the day, we're all Americans. But again, the democratic system is going to work itself out. I don't believe, and maybe I didn't get the memo, I don't believe that if the Democratic Party wins or lose, or the Republican Party wins or lose, it's going to be a civil war. I mean, the last civil war was about people like me keeping my ancestors enslaved. That's what people was fighting over. Ain't nobody enslaved now. I mean, this is just, we can fight at the country club together. But slavery was the reason for the Civil War, in spite of what people say, Northern aggression. I don't believe that. So I don't think the stakes are as high as it was then. But I might be wrong. Maybe I just didn't get the memo.
I do think, we're seeing people out. Some of the different protesters on different sides of issues are getting out, and they're the ones kind of fighting with each other. And unfortunately, I think, they do that sometimes on high profile spots like university campuses or downtowns. And, innocent bystanders can get, hit or run over in the case of, Charlottesville, that, maniac that drove through the crowd.
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't think so.
When you see a crowd that's acting irrational like that, it's not a place to hang out.
Right.
Somebody's going to get hurt. Look what happened on January 6th. Somebody got shot.
Hey, listen.
But that also quells free speech too. Unfortunately, people want to go out and voice their opinions on things, but then you're concerned if you go to an event or a rally, you might get shot. I mean, it has a chilling effect on free speech.
Yeah,
I agree.
Kent State's another one. Those guys had guns. Who knew they had bullets? They felt they were being attacked, and they shot and killed a bunch of students. Same thing happened in the Boston massacre. The mob was coming after a group of soldiers, and one of them got hit in a club. He said it was self-defense. He shot, killed somebody, and then everybody shot.
Well,
it's crazy.
Goble, you're absolutely right. But the challenging part about it is this for me, and then I'll be quiet. This will be my last word. Goble, you and Maverick, say what you want. It's one of those situations where we're at a point now where it appears that January 6th, when our democracy was hanging in the ballot, people are like, well, that didn't really occur. That wasn't as bad as it was. And that's the part that says, selective, I don't know, and when I was in business school, they used to call it situational ethics. So for people to say that President Trump, that was his finest moment, or he didn't have anything to do with January 6th, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. But that's just one person who will be voting against him. And I know we talked about his policies and all this kind of good stuff, but January 6th for me was a bridge too far. It was just a bridge too far. And when you see the images of what happened, I don't think there's any way we could say that didn't happen. I don't think we could say that he wasn't in charge. Back to, heavy is the head that wears the crown. He was in charge, in my opinion. Or maybe Rudy was in charge. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree with you, Odell. Storming the Capitol is not acceptable, full stop. And again, I think we've got to, really make sure that we have a peaceful transfer of power. And that's a must have in a president and in a government. When someone else wins the election, that you've got to peacefully transfer power, but also peaceful transfer of power means we've got to have a fair and transparent election as well. And I think there's a lot of doubts that people have, a lot of concerns, some of which are, not founded and some of which are founded. Again, going back to, Cooper State Board of Election keeping Dr. West off the ballot. I don't think that's right. I don't think that will serve him well. It may serve him personally, but it's not going to serve the state very well.
Yes, sir.
That's well said. That's well said. We're going to let Marty have the last word here.
Well,
Marty said he's not jumping on any airplanes anymore.
No,
I don't play with heights at all. I don't even play with it. You don't have to worry about the good-looking black guy even going up. Well, yeah, I do get on planes, but I'm not getting on the plane to jump out of a perfectly good plane, Maverick. Not me.
I always appreciate chatting with y'all, and I think, we have different views on policies, and we can sit here and have a discussion about that and have fun and enjoy each other's company. And I really am hopeful that, more people can do that and, get outside their bubble, have friends that have different opinions and not just immediately jump to kind of a knee-jerk negative reaction to someone that doesn't agree with them on things. There's plenty of things to talk about in the world other than certain things where you disagree. There's so many things where you can find common ground. And that's why your podcast is just so important, that finding common ground on different issues and bringing in folks that, with different perspectives and hopefully modeling that for others to follow.
Thank you, Marty, for being on the show. I think you win the prize for being on the show the most, and that isn't going to stop. We're going to keep having you come back. You offer insight and a perspective that our audience needs to hear. Thank you for being on the show, but more importantly, thank you for being open and honest and straightforward, which I know It's the only way you go, but also being friends with Odell and I. Thank you.
Well, good point, Marty, because you have to be careful because we have some Republicans who won't be seen with Bill. They won't be friends with Bill because they get shunned or kicked out the Republican Party. So obviously you don't feel that way.
No, I y'all know me. I'm not. Someone else tries to tell me what to do. I'm not real happy with that. I don't follow peer pressure much at all.
Well, we know some people who do, Bill. We know some people who do.
No, I'm glad we're all together on this. This has been great fun. I'm gonna cut it, and we're all gonna disappear here. But
all right,
okay.
Enjoy the trip.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see Dory. Hopefully, she makes it back.
Yeah, I'll be taking pictures.
Good luck.
I'll post.
Be having good thoughts going your way, Dory.
She's getting Bubba.
Find Bill and Odell online at thecommonground.show. This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.
Attention men, here's an important new podcast you need to be listening to.
So this whole issue about prostate and prostate health and all the challenges that we're having with it, but no one's talking. So that's the reason why I started this podcast, so we can talk, so we can get understanding. I understand I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical individual. I'm just an ordinary, normal guy who had some issues to say, hey, let's talk about this thing.
P is for Prostate with Odell Cleveland. Download anytime where you get your podcasts. And join for the full podcast at www.patreon.com/Odell Cleveland.
Whether you're a big, medium, or small business, managing and growing the bottom line is important. Focus CFO brings the experience and financial acumen of a Fortune 100 Chief Financial Officer to your company at a fraction of the cost. P&L help, internal reporting processes, or any business transitions or events. Focus CFO will help you and your team have a CFO in your company's back pocket. Focus CFO. Learn more at focuscfo.com.